News are live on GBC24 and GTV. Good evening and you're welcome. My name is Yokwo Pakutre.
I am Shirley Annan. Now straight to our first story. President John Mahama has revealed that many of the CHIPS compounds being built around the country to improve rural access to healthcare are financed with monies set aside from 10% cuts in salaries of the president and ministers.
The minister dropped the bombshell at a deba held in his honor as he toured Ada and Saglemi at the start of his accounting to the people tour of the Greater Accra region. Napoleon Atukito reports.
Accounting to the People Tour of Greater Accra Region by President John Mahama, he was at Saglemi near Pram Pram to inspect the affordable housing project he cut sod for in 2013. The contractors are OAS of Brazil. The Saglemi housing project was initiated by Government of Ghana in response to the housing deficit in the country. The costly prices of housing units built by private estate developers induced the government to embark on the Saglemi project, hoping the subsidized alternative could meet the pockets of low-income earning groups. There are 1,500 housing units in the phase 1 of the project, which will total about 5,000 across all phases.
1,500 units you can see physically with your eyes. In Hausa, they say fili fili, gafili gadochi. And I'm saying gafili gadochi because there are some people who see but refuse to see. And they say these buildings are Photoshop. After this visit, I don't know what else. Maybe we Photoshop the building behind me as I stand here. But these are real. This is real shop.
The president also visited Big Ada, where he inspected the asphalt road from Kase Junction to Ada. The community is receiving projects like a community day senior high school, sea defense wall, an abattoir, a market, and other facilities. The president said a commercial shrimp farm will be established at Ada, for which there is an off-taker arrangement. In other words, a ready market in exports for the shrimps. He said the youth of Ada will particularly be encouraged to go into the business. Ada is also in line for a properly developed landing bay or an anchorage for fishing canoes and vessels.
My special appeal also goes to the construction of the entire Ada Township Group, which is virtually in a deprived state.
I do this to express my appreciation to the people of Ada for the strong support and solidarity you have shown me since I became president. I want to thank you very much and to say that I'll never take your support for granted. We are sharing the fruits of our economic growth to the whole country. And one of the principles of my government is that every part of this country must receive its fair share of development.
The president visited Anyaman, a fishing community in the catchment of Ada. Expectedly, availability of premix fuel used on canoes was the main concern of the fisher folks. President John Mahama has been commended by many for responding to the needs of a specific sector as fisheries, where government is making a lot of investments in cold stores and fishing harbors. Analysts say the effort to boost fish production, boost incomes, and alleviate poverty.
Over the last 3.5 years, we have been working for you. And so if you see me here today, it is to go through with you some of the things that we have done and also to identify the challenges, some of the challenges that we are left to tackle.
A newly established ICT park at the Tema-Free Zones Enclave was the last port of call by the president. Powered by a fiber optic backbone, the facility will enhance speed for data processing and transfer. Napoleon Atukito for G.
The introduction of an electronic system in the operations of the school feeding program saved the country 24 million Ghana cedis this year. This was disclosed by the officials of the program when the Minister for Gender, Children and Social Protection, Nana Oyelita, visited 2 schools in Accra to inspect the registration of the pupils onto the National Health Insurance Scheme. Both schools are beneficiaries of the school feeding program.
So far, a little over 100,000 school children have been registered in the exercise, which is aimed at providing all-inclusive social protection services for school pupils captured under the school feeding program.
I'm satisfied with what is going on, but there are a few challenges that National Health will have to address. That is the slow pace of registration, so it may take longer.
At the Manchetaki and Liberty Primary School, as at the time of the minister's visit, 500 pupils had been registered and given a National Health Insurance card. 900 were also registered at the St. Mary's Anglican School at Akotulante. The Minister of Gender, Children and Social Protection, Nana Oyelita, said the exercise is government's way of making sure that some 1,728,681 in all 216 districts get access to not only quality meals but also have a healthy and sound mind to study.
This is a form of verification for us, independent verification, because they are taking the picture of the children and then we are able to verify that indeed in this school there are 500, because we have modalities. The child has to be on the register. So even before the registration, they check the register and everything.
Meanwhile, the national coordinator of the school feeding program, Patrick Ichampon, said with the introduction of the electronic payment system, payment to all involved in the program has been on time.
Arrears, which had been outstanding for close to a year, we have paid almost everything off, and then we are effectively on ground monitoring to ensure that caterers are cooking all over the country.
The registration, which is running concurrently nationwide, started in April this year and is in partnership with the Ministry of Health, the National Health Insurance Authority and the Ministry of Education. The Tema Metropolitan Director of Education has given an assurance that students of the St. John Bosco Junior High School who had wrong index numbers in the ongoing Basic Education Certificate examination will not be affected as efforts are being made to correct the anomaly. 30 students from the school in Tema joined their colleagues on Monday for the examinations, only to realize that index numbers given them by their schools were different from what the West Africa Examination Council gave out on the examination day.
Index numbers are exclusive numbers that identify a student taking part in an examination. The numbers are generated by the West Africa Examination Council for individual students. Pupils from the St. John Bosco Junior High School came to the examination center at the Trinity Lutheran School in Tema, Community 2, only to realize that the numbers given them from their schools as their index numbers were different from what the West Africa Examination Council have issued. The pupils have been allowed to write the exams with the wrong index numbers, whilst the Tema Metropolitan Education Directorate have taken steps to rectify the anomaly. A visit to the examination center shows that the students were calm and were writing their examinations without any challenges. The Tema Director of Education has been explaining the situation to GBC24 and what has been done to correct the situation.
Whatever the school gave out for us to send to YE, that is what came back to the school. So the fault is from the school, not from WAEC. But we do corrections. So whatever we write back to correct. But the only thing is that whatever corrections they will do, they will have to pay some fee because it's not their fault.
Meanwhile, examinations in other centers in the Tema metropolis is going on smoothly without any incident. The exams are expected to end on Friday, and the Tema Director of Education is certain that the students will come out successfully as they have prepared adequately for the exams.
Parliament today eulogized boxing legend, the late Muhammad Ali. In a statement, the member of Parliament for Tamale South, Mr. Haruna Idrisu, described the late heavyweight boxing champ as the greatest sports personality of all time, who thrilled the world with his boxing skills.
The MP for Asawasi constituency, Alhaji Muntaka Mubarak Mohammed, paid tribute to Muhammad Ali through a statement written by the Member of Parliament for Tamale South, Mr. Haruna Idrisu.
For many, as described by Billy, he was a lightning combination of power and beauty. He fought injustice and poverty and sought after real freedom. He is gone, but will never die. His ideals and his spirit lives. Muhammad Ali was a silent messenger of peace. He is described as a selfless stranger to fame. He broke our hearts, souls, and conscience with his death.
Members from both sides of the House were in favor of the statements.
This is Muhammad Ali, the greatest. When it comes to boxing, my leader was a guest and I know nothing about. The greatest would always, Mr. Speaker, be Muhammad Ali. There would never be another Muhammad Ali, Mr. Speaker, because you, number one, we won't have the one who can predict the round in which he would beat the opponent. Mr. Speaker, this man will even predict if he was going to down his opponent with the left or the right. Mr. Speaker, we won't have another boxer who will be a poet. I mean, Muhammad Ali in the ring will be reciting his poetry.
I got inspired by him, and if you heard that I was a boxer, Mr. Speaker, it was because Muhammad Ali inspired me. He was a man I learned tenacity, determination, commitment from. He was a man who inspired me to do whatever I thought I was going to be. I became a poet because Muhammad Ali was a poet.
Thriller in Manila. The Speaker, that was the highest point in Ali's boxing history. And he composed a poem before the fight and said to Frazier that it will be a thriller, a chiller, and a killer when Ali mazed the gorilla in Manila. That indeed provoked and agitated Joe Frazier, for which reason the first 6 rounds he was determined to knock down Muhammad Ali. Beyond 7, he got exhausted, and Ali pummeled him.
I had the privilege of meeting Muhammad Ali in 1964 when he came to Achimota School. Those of us who were in our first year were in front. So many of us had the opportunity of shaking hands with him as he mounted the days. And I assure you, we did not wash our hands because being in the presence of this man who exuded greatness was something special.
The House then continued with the business for the day. Reports on the Real Estate Authority Bill and the National Revenue Act 2009 were read for the second time by the respective committees.
In accordance with Article 1225 of the Constitution, the Electoral Commission would hold a by-election in the Abetifi constituency. This follows the death of the NP of the area, Peter Riafi-Pepra. In a statement signed by the Deputy Chairman, Operations of the Electoral Commission, Amadou Sule, nominations will be taken on Tuesday, the 21st of June and Wednesday, 22nd of June at the District Office of the Electoral Commission. The form may be obtained from the District Office or from the Regional Office at Kufudia. Interested candidates should provide 2 recent photographs on a red background showing full face and both ears. The filing fee for the election is 1,000 cedis. All interested candidates and political parties are to take note and be guided accordingly.
The Ministry of Fisheries and Aquaculture Development will soon begin to implement a sustainable management and conservation program on Lake Busumtree in the Ashanti region. This follows concerns raised about environmental factors adversely affecting the only natural lake in Ghana, which is also the largest natural lake in West Africa. A stakeholders meeting about the lake has taken place at Abono in the Bosomtwe district of Ashanti region.
Bosomtwe is about 30 kilometers southeast of Kumasi and is a popular recreational area. There are about 25 communities surrounding the lake basin with a combined population of about 70,000. In the past, traditional laws had helped to prevent the overexploitation of fishes in the lake to ensure sustainability. However, pollution of the lake and degradation of the forest in the catchment area have eroded the natural wealth of the lake. The fish stock in the lake has dwindled drastically. The problem is attributed to excessive fishing and the use of undersized nets in fishing, which destroy breed stocks. The lake is also drying up and dying, a situation which is depriving the people of their source of livelihood. It is these concerns that have led the Ministry of Fisheries and Agriculture Development to implement a sustainable management and conservation program for Lake Bosomtwe. The stakeholders meeting was attended by fisherfolk living in the cluster of communities around Lake Bosomtwe and the staff of the Fisheries Commission. Measures designed to ensure sustainability include what is called alternative stock in the lake. The District Chief Executive for Bosomtwe, Madam Veronica Entry-Ejay, outlined some of the activities that are degrading the lake. The Ashanti Regional Director of Fisheries, Mr. Gideon Boachi, emphasized the importance of the sustainable management and conservation program.
So we say because in Ryan Nigeria before a Ryan de Lucio na Diana Ajifan Tinu, a man soon as when you're there. It's Minister Swash Asher say, in Ryan Fansununa, and to her school for your way. Here, Colabia Rabbit Tromoson on Bedrian, and Obia saw what true you are a piano, so you better say, Obian Ryan 5 more vessel. Say, I feel be a baby, yes, okay, as soon as you by meeting Nibi, you knew would be away any near him.
The Director of Fish Health, Dr. Joyce Dontry, called for cooperation and support from the communities to conserve Lake Bosomtwe.
Mrs. Matilda Imisa Arthur has called on all, especially mothers, to give girls whose education have been interrupted by pregnancy another chance at education. Mrs. Imisa Arthur made a call at a deba in her honor at Winneba.
The Eninado Women Fishmongers Group has 150 members. Improving the lot of each member is high on the objective of the group, and they sometimes solicit support from elsewhere to support one another as well as their activities. So far, the group has supported members in the areas of health, small loan schemes and other poverty reduction interventions. The visit of the wife of the Vice President, Mrs. Matilda Imisa Arthur, was to further support the women with some working tools. Mrs. Imisa Arthur donated quantities of aluminium bowls, trays and grill to help the women in their businesses. The founder of the Eninado Women's Group, Madame Baba Amamu, who is also the NDC women organizer in the area, says she gathered the women together so as to find support and make life better for them.
Most of the women are very poor. They can't even support their health. So I took it upon myself to organize a health screening for them. But you see, it's all about money here, so it hasn't come on. So I went to the second lady, and she came to our aid.
The wife of the Vice President, Mrs. Matilda Imisa Arthur, said the education of girls and women is crucial to the development of every nation, since women play an important role in the growth of any economy.
Ofanisika, Ofanisete, Nina Messiafo. Bessia Nifia, if you're Ira Hode. Ya Yatsina, Yajuma. Ya Yen Juma Yimpon, Azisha, you could do your mafia bika craton and a dandana, Yenba Yizban. Inti, Mere Bonwabado, Monquado de Ma Messiafuna. Yama wanyi senyinsa na yesi yama want to school don onye. Ewu wiya wonja afraban na want to school no do. Sebi. Niti nzimbwa na aboko school na eduka nsa no edwuma oye.
Mr. Arthur cautioned the women to mind their utterances so as to avoid strifes as the general elections approach, as well as do well to clean their environment to avoid flooding as the wet season sets in. Mr. Arthur has also donated bags of rice, sugar, cartons of cooking oil and tea bags to the Muslim leaders for onward distribution to their members. This is to support the Muslims in the area as they observe their religious fasting and prayers. Theodora Medeto, GBC24, Winneba.
The Ghana Broadcasting Corporation will organize presidential debates for all registered political parties in the country ahead of the November general elections. The debate forms part of GBC's election coverage, which aims to provide fair and equal opportunities to all the parties to educate the electorate on their policies, plans, and positions on major economic and political issues. Policy guidelines on the coverage of the elections were also unveiled at the event at Broadcasting House in Accra, which drew a gathering including political party representatives. This year's elections will be the 7th in the country since the return to multi-party democracy in 1992.
Over the past 24 years, when Ghana chose to use the ballot box to elect her leaders, the Ghana Broadcasting Corporation has been instrumental in this journey. The state broadcaster has championed its constitutional role of giving fair and equity coverage to all political parties to sell their policies to the electorate. Come November 7, Ghana will be going to the polls, and once again, GBC is giving all registered political parties the platform to freely inform the electorate about the reason why they deserve to be in power. In order to avoid complaints of unfair coverage, management of GBC have met with representatives of political parties to outline its guidelines for coverage of political parties ahead of the general elections.
To ensure neutrality, GBC shall make available to all registered political parties and candidates advertising space or slots and airtime for programs without favor. The rates, terms and conditions for advertising, airtime and production and transmission facilities shall be the same for all political parties and candidates.
The chairman of the National Media Commission, Mr. Kwesi Jana Painting, said the NMC would be monitoring all political broadcasts ahead of the 2016 elections to ensure that media houses play by the rules.
The NMC came up with a law on standards content regulation, currently being contested at the Supreme Court. At the center of that law are the standards that are universally observed in broadcasting. While the law is being tested at the Supreme Court, we continue to do our best to ensure that the standards at the heart, which are spread in a lot of our guidelines and in some cases similar to what we may see today, are observed. We need to be professional across the board in our work in the media. This is the only way to ensure that the peace we all desire as an outcome of the elections can be assured.
The board chairman of GBC, Mr. Richard Kwame Asante, said GBC will give equal playing field to all registered political parties on its radio stations and television channels across the country.
GBC has constituted a political broadcast, complaints and monitoring committee with the best kind of human resource. The committee has been at work since last year and in consultation with various stakeholders has come up with guidelines that would govern GBC's coverage of political parties, presidential candidates, and political activities in the forthcoming 2016 elections.
The chairman of the National Peace Council, Most Reverend Professor Emmanuel Asante,
entreated the political parties to take advantage of the opportunity being offered them.
This time we want to elect people because they have marketed something that we can hold on, something that will push Ghana forward. We have elected people because we have understood the issues at stake. And that is what this whole thing is about. So seize this opportunity, don't squander it.
The acting Director General of GBC, Mrs. Francisca Ashite Odunton, said though the political parties will appear on GBC programs, the corporation will have editorial control of the programs.
We would allow parties and candidates to debate each other, and we would also provide information that as far as possible avoids inflammatory language to help to prevent election-related violence. No one party would be allowed to dominate a particular time. GBC would at all times maintain editorial control over all material to be broadcast.
Balloting for the order in which the political parties will appear on GBC programs was postponed.
News are live on GBC24 and GTV. We're taking a short break. Business is next.
Hello, good evening and welcome. We're grateful to have you join us from the business segment of the news. I am Dorothy Ajamai. Ghana's inflation is up 0.2% to 18.9% as at May from the previous month's figure of 18.7%. The Ghana Statistical Service says movements in the non-food basket, transport, housing, water, electricity, education and recreation, among others, accounted for the increase.
We also found out that the Greater Accra region recorded the highest non-food inflation rate in May 2016, and here 4 commodity groups recorded inflation rates higher than the regional non-food inflation rate of 29.7%. Here again we have housing, water, electricity, gas and other fuels recording an inflation rate of 48.2%, transport 41.5%, recreation and culture 32.7%, and education 31.7%. We also found out that the Ashanti region recorded the highest food inflation rate in May 2016, and here 7 food subgroups recorded inflation rates higher than the regional food inflation rate of 9.8%.
The next phase of Ghana's single window will be the introduction of an integrated risk management system to reduce the number of consignments inspected at the port. According to the Finance Minister Setepe, under this same second phase, an automated registration and payment system will be introduced to integrate key process into a paperless system.
The Ghana National Single Window Project was introduced by the Ministry of Trade and Industry to provide a platform for an integrated clearance process to minimize the human factor as much as possible and to a large extent help to reduce the processing time for trade documents. After 15 years of operating with destination inspection companies, DICs, the Customs Division of the Ghana Revenue Authority took over that task on September 1st last year to enhance custom functions as a stopgap measure to improve on trade facilitation. Meanwhile, some stakeholders have described the first phase of the single window project as an improvement of what the DICs were doing. According to them, the previous reporting system takes up to 2 weeks, but the new system takes less than 2 days. The challenges facing Ghana in this area are formidable as she ranks 171 out of 189 countries in the World Bank's Trading Across Borders report for 2016. To further improve trade, the government has launched a strategic action plan and roadmap for the implementation of the second phase of the Ghana National Single Window. The Finance Minister, Mr. Setepe, said the main idea behind the Single Window project is to eliminate bureaucracies at the ports.
There's a regional context to what we are doing. Customs is implementing a common external tariff, and therefore, which is an ECOWAS tariff. So what we are doing here, fits into ECOWAS. A common external tariff, all of West Africa, and it's a schedule. It's one of the appendices or schedules to the customs, law the new one that was passed.
The Commissioner General of the Ghana Revenue Authority, Mr. George Blankson, said the first phase of the project has improved the level of efficiency in the operations at the ports.
You're watching News Hour, and this is the business segment. On the interbank market, the dollar maintained its value to the local currency to trade at 3 cedis 88 pesos. The pound sterling gained 6 pesos to the cedi to sell at 5 cedis 48 pesos. The euro also inched up by 3 pesos to the cedi to trade at 4 cedis 35 pesos. The rates up next. On the commodities market, cocoa appreciated by $9 to trade at $3,154 per ton. Light crude dipped by 52 cents to trade at $47.97 per barrel. Gold also lost $2.40 to trade at $1,283.20 an ounce. Now some insurance news. Algeria and Kenya top the list of the fastest growing African non-life insurance markets with real premium compound annual growth rates of 8.9% and 8.2% in 2014. Meanwhile, oil exporters Angola and Nigeria saw premiums shrink by 2.6% and 2.2% following the slump in oil prices.
Insurance Barometer 2016 report, South Africa's premium represented 71% of the whole continent's $69 billion total in 2014 and 40% of its non-life total, with much higher penetration rates. After South Africa sit Morocco, Algeria, Nigeria, Kenya, Egypt and Angola as the largest non-life markets, each representing at least $1 billion premium. The report listed high government deficits, the global crunch in commodity and energy prices, African currency depreciations, China's economy, heightened African political risk and instability threats, and shortages of talent and disposal income as factors stunting Africa's insurance market growth potential. Excluding the South African market, African non-life premium was $13.8 billion in 2014, clearly dominating the African insurance sector. With the exception of South Africa and Namibia, where insurance penetration levels reached 14% and 7.3%, the contribution of insurance to GDP was significantly lower than the global average of 6.2% in all African countries. The report said in more than half of all African countries, penetration was lower than 1%. The report cited low disposal income as the main obstacle to more rapid insurance market development. The report said that in 2014, the 10 largest markets, South Africa, Morocco, Egypt, Nigeria, Kenya, Algeria, Angola, Namibia, Tunisia and Mauritius, generated a premium of $63.4 billion, or 92% of total African premiums. Among these top 10 markets, Kenya recorded the steepest nominal premium growth with 20%. The largest market, South Africa,
grew at an inflation-adjusted rate of 1% over the same period.
The insurance news was brought to you by SIC Live. We have more news coming up. Please stay.
Of a segment. To demonstrate his commitment towards voluntary blood donation, the Minister for Health, Mr. Alex Segbefia, has donated a pint of blood at the National Blood Service Ghana. On the occasion of World Blood Donor Day, the World Health Organization is appealing to the youth to embrace the culture of volunteerism and donate blood to save lives. Serofori reports.
Donate blood to save and reduce maternal death and child death. The more I donate, the more new blood comes into the system.
Most often when I come to donate, I'm screened for hepatitis B and C free of charge, syphilis free of charge, and then almighty HIV is free of charge, and also I'm able to know my blood group.
In Africa, just about 21 countries collect about 80 to 100% blood from voluntary donors, although between 2013 to date, blood donations increased from 3.9 million to 4.4 million units. The figure represents just about 50% of the annual requirements of blood. For this reason, the national blood transfusion services across Africa are always challenged as far as demand for safe blood and blood products is high.
The shortage of blood in many countries in the African region is often due to weak implementation of policies and lack of systems and structures to ensure an adequate supply of safe blood and blood products to meet the needs of all patients requiring transfusion.
This year's World Blood Donors Day, celebrated on the premise that blood connects us all, was therefore to thank millions of voluntary blood donors.
The objectives for this year's campaign is to create wider public awareness of the need for voluntary and paid blood donation, to focus attention on blood services as a community service, and also on the importance of community participation for a sufficient, safe, and sustainable blood supply.
To prevent needless deaths, timely access to safe blood and products are essential. Hence, the need for a comprehensive approach to whip up voluntary donations.
Community participation is therefore key in ensuring a sufficient, safe, and sustainable blood supply. The WHO has targeted the year 2020 for all countries to obtain 100% of their blood supplies from only voluntary unpaid donors, a target Ghana is working hard to achieve through continuous education.
The Ministry of Health is also in the process of securing legal backing to make the National Blood Service Ghana autonomous. To make true his promise to become a voluntary donor, Mr. Alex Segbefia availed himself to be bled. He was taken through pre-test and counseling process. Just as transfusion was to start, GBC24 exclusively got a teaser from the minister. Sir, I would like to know whether you are nervous.
I'm a bit hungry. I'm fine, no problem.
But you are not nervous?
No.
In a matter of 15 minutes, Mr. Segbefia had donated a pint of blood, which is about 450 milliliters and less than a sachet of water. Serofori, GBC24, Accra.
Talk Sports, I'm Theophilus Sampa, straight to Cape Coast, where Martin Owusu clocked the lifetime best of 20.95 seconds to win the men's 200 meters at the invitational event for the circuit's grand finale held at Cape Coast. The domestic track and field season reached the climax at the weekend with the Ghana Athletics Association hosting the grand finale of the National Circuit Championship. The 15-event competition saw the very best locally based athletes compete for final places whilst trying to secure places in the national team for the upcoming African Championship in South Africa and the Rio 2016 Olympic Games. Only the top 8 point scorers in each event across the session were invited for the circuit finals, with each event going into a straight final after 4 circuit championships held at Bolgatanga, Koforidua, Sekendi, and Accra earlier in the season. The grand finale had about 128 male and female athletes who battled for honors in their respective events. In the 200-meter event, Martin Owusu entry from the Ashanti region clocked a lifetime best of 20.95 seconds to beat Stephen Oku, also from Ashanti, Bright Chite from the Greater Accra region, and Ghana Armed Forces Shepherd Agbeku, among others. In the 4x100 meter women's event, Ghana's Team A gave a hint of their readiness for the upcoming African Championship. They finished the race in a time of 43.19 seconds to beat Ghana's Team B, the Great Ashanti, Legon Team, Team Togo, Team Burkina Faso, and a team from Seychelles. The president of the Ghana Athletics Association, Professor Francis Dodo, has been speaking on the improvement in the performance of athletes at the just ended National Circuit Grand Finale. Some athletes have also expressed optimism ahead of the upcoming Africa Championships.
Okay, after last week's 200 meters win, I decided to motivate myself and come in for the goal, no matter what. Everyone knows I'm a lazy athlete, but I put laziness aside and just worked hard. From here, make the national team. From there, the sky's my limit.
If God willing, they call me to the national team, I'll do my best.
I'm feeling very impressed because I didn't know I can win it. Thank God I made it.